What's up, y'all? It's LTJ Reeves here, and this is Throwing Light. And if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. I am over in some crazy rural town in Texas right now at a camp. So I am in my cabin right now, but you can't tell because anytime I do this show, you guys just think I'm outside the earth. So that's important because of the background. So we have got a very special episode. I've got Ralph Bruno here, International Mr. Leather 2017, and I've got my IML 46 brother, Jack Keegan, Mr. New England Leather 2024. I'm so glad to have you all here. So glad to have you back. If I'm correct, this is both your second time here.
Yes, it
Correct.
is.
Okay, so I want to reckon that last time that y'all did an interview with me, it might have been uh 60 episodes ago. This is episode 92, y'all. So we are
Wow.
almost 8 episodes from 100. So
That is impressive, dude.
yeah, so I just want to tell people that are watching, there will be a very special 100th episode. In a couple of weeks, I'll vamp out what exactly I'm doing. But if you've ever been a guest on Throwing Light, I suggest sharing your episode because there's going to be a surprise for the top 5 viewed people on Throwing Light for the year. So y'all keep that in mind. We'll come back to that later. What's most important is that now International Mr. Leather is becoming more accessible to people so they can participate because, hey, let's be real. International Mr. Leather is an expensive gig to go to. And
Oh,
so a
yeah.
lot of people can't afford to go there. So I think this is phenomenal that they're now adding this component. So let's go ahead and get started. Ralph, Jack, IML 47 going live.
Yes.
How did this come about?
Well, I don't know if you recall, if you remember Tony Peer, one of the, producers. He was the one scuttling us around backstage at IML.
Yes.
Yeah, he and I stayed in touch after IML last year, and he just approached me, probably a few months ago and said, "Hey, I liked your stage presence, the way you were on a microphone. I've been doing, of course, voice acting work and voiceover work, so." He was like, I think you would be perfect for this. So that was it, and just went from there.
You have a very nice voice, Jack, apparently.
Oh,
And then
thank
you,
you.
see, I was very appreciative of you sending me some of your voiceover work. I'm low
Yes.
key obsessed with you, but I'm low key obsessed with you.
Oh,
So,
you are
and
so
I'm
hot.
sorry that a year's gone by, and I really did want to come up there and visit you, and I still want to. So,
Yes, I know you were
but
talking about that, and maybe for my step down, but it's all good. We'll
no,
see us. I'll see you soon.
yeah, we're gonna see each other. We're gonna make it work.
Yes.
Um, so Ralph, you have been to many IMLs at this point. How do you feel about presenting this option to view IML live? From your home now, like that's a big evolution.
I think it's super. I haven't actually been to that many IMLs. The IML that I won was the first IML I'd ever been to. The feeder contest to IML GNI, that was the first contest I'd ever been to. So by the time I won IML, I'd competed twice and won twice. And like you said about watching the episodes, I'm never competing for anything again. So I gladly cede to Jack to win that 100th episode thing. But
Okay, that's
I think it's amazing. It's not just about people in their homes. It's about people, if I live in Los Angeles. I'm actually in France. We have a place in France, and I've been here for a couple of months, and I'm headed home on the 6th to do some stuff at home and then to head to Chicago for IML. But it isn't just people at home, it's bars, local bars,
Mm-hmm.
and buy that thing, and people can come to the Bullet Bar, to the Eagle Bar, to the Austin Eagle Bar, and they can show it for an audience for $50. They can, the entire bar can watch the contest both nights. And so to me, it's a tremendous opportunity. I know when I won, I went back and I was looking at the Facebook Live feed, and people were weighing in because they were watching on their Facebook Live thing, and they were commenting. And I remember reading a comment about my Texan personality from Guy Baldwin, and that's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen, or something. And it just means the world that people who aren't able to be in Chicago can still see it. Like, there's a bunch of past IMLs who I think would love to see it. There's a lot of title holders who just don't get to Chicago as easily as they might. And like you and I were talking earlier, the international crowd, there's been at least one that I know of who's decided that it's not safe for him to come to compete in Chicago, so he's deferred to do that. And so to me, it's like the opportunity to be present for such an important thing for our culture is just a no-brainer. I hadn't really even heard about it, and I was at MAL, and Tony came up to me and said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, "Sure." And so he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, so we're going to do this thing. We're going to do pay-per-view for IML, and we want to have like a chat before and after and at intermission on Friday and Sunday." And I said, "Oh, that's a great idea." And he said, "Yeah, and I'd like you to lead that. Would you please do that?" And I said, um, "Can I think about it?" And he said, "You really can't, because we're announcing it at the press conference tomorrow." And it's one of those kind of things that when IML asks me to do anything, I always say yes. So I think it's a great idea. And then I heard that Jack was doing it, and my IMSL, the year that I won, 2017, Girl Complex is going to be on the panel with us, and she's fucking
Yes.
she's you know she's going to be. We don't have to do anything. We just have to sort of make sure that she doesn't get us yanked off the air.
I was gonna say we have to probably try to keep up with her from what I hear.
Yeah, she's phenomenal, and we've been close since she won and then I won, and she's a really special person to me, and she's going to be great.
So I want to touch on two things that are amazing here. So and you'll realize by offering IML to the community, you said show up the bar, you're actually creating business for the bar
Yes.
doing that, and I
Literally,
think
yeah.
that's a huge like wake up, y'all. You know how much money is going to come into the community by y'all doing this? Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
phenomenal. That's
Yeah, I
freaking
was
phenomenal.
Yeah, I was pitching it to the Providence Eagle actually, in that exact way. I told them, hey, we've got local people who are competing that, their friends, their loved ones who maybe can't make it to Chicago, due to financial reasons or otherwise. They're going to want to see them compete, and this is a great opportunity to do that, to drive business for your bar, and to just, create this positive environment to, cheer on our local competitors. So, and our Eagle, the owner was like, hands down on board, like no questions asked. He's gonna try to put it on a projector on a big wall in the Eagle. So it's gonna be awesome. And especially for I mean for a bar, for $50, that's nothing. And the fact that we haven't even touched on the $50 ticket, all the proceeds actually go to the Leather Archives and Museum. So it's not like just going into their pockets. It's going to help a fantastic organization that is preserving and memorializing rather our leather culture and our history. So it's an amazing thing.
So in doing IML live and and making it accessible, so is there a way? So obviously, we're trying to make trans people feel more welcome and things too. Do y'all have any strategies in terms of how you're marketing this, or you're just kind of marketing it? It's all for all inclusive. You are welcome to purchase a pay-per-view ticket. You know what I'm saying, like that. It's how are you guys approaching that in terms of advertising and marketing this?
Yeah, Ralph, do you want to go first on that?
Yeah, I think it's such a new concept that I actually think the community that I think is actually most catered to by this is the disabled community. It's very
Hmm.
ableist to that people can, fly to Chicago, stay in a hotel for 5 days, and go do these things in different arenas that are hours and hours long. It's just much easier if you can have it at home, or if you can have it at your local, LGBT center, if you can have it at your local bar, if you can have it at bath towels. There's a million ways in which it's just not the same. I mean, I know that I can find my pecs and personality online. I know that I can find my speech online, but it's not the same as seeing the show and the flow
Right.
of the show and the way it feels to actually experience in real time what it's like to be a part of that experience. And so to me, it's like the guy who, our new executive director was IML before me, Tigger. He was IML 2016. So we've known each other. He was my head judge the year I won. And he really came in and tried to think of ways in which we could, to be crass about it, like greater monetize the IML brand. Because as Jack said, everything the IML makes goes to the Leather Archives and Museum. That's our sole function. It's part of the Renslow Charitable Trust. So everything that we make in every venue that we make, whether it's t-shirts, whether it's, Tigger had these really cool belt buckles that have the IML wingman on them.
Oh,
And there are
yes, I want
very
one so bad.
yeah, there are very few people who actually can wear the wingman because traditionally it's been either staff or IMLs. And now, there's a limited number of them, but they're trying to have people be more of a participant with IML and have it not be so rarefied so that, we create more revenue and create a broader audience. It's the second
Hmm.
largest event in Chicago every year. So there's no reason why it shouldn't be like a worldwide event. Does that make
I
sense,
think
Jack?
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah. So, how, let's talk about the process of getting registered, all that type of stuff. Like, how do people, go online and register for this?
Yeah, for sure. So what I understand is, that you purchase tickets basically just as you would a ticket to IML itself, as if you were attending in person. So on the ticket page, I'll have to look up the direct URL, but I believe it's internationalmrleather.com/tickets, if I remember correctly. And I believe it's toward the bottom. It's going to be tickets for the IML live stream. Purchase $50, and as you go through the motions, it tells you that you are going to be emailed a pay-per-view link. I believe it says a couple days before, if I'm not mistaken. And once the show goes live, then you can just tune into that link and go from there. You'll be able to view the Friday performance and as well as the Sunday performances too. So.
So it's going to be the Friday night and the Sunday night.
Yep,
Mm.
yeah, because to my knowledge, there's nothing going on Saturday.
Yeah, I
Kind of the same
think
with our year.
yeah, yeah. I've actually asked Din Daddy Miguel about that, and I think Saturday is, yeah, it's off again this week.
Saturday's
This
always dark.
feels,
It's the number draw on Thursday, and then Friday picks some personality, then Saturday's dark, and then Sunday. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so Ralph, like, what is, you were asked this to do this literally the day before it was going to be announced, and you had to think about it very quickly. Like, what was the motivate? What's your biggest motivation in wanting to take part of this?
Listen, this isn't the only way I'm taking part in IML. IML is a very important part of my life. It's an important part of my life story. I'm the oldest guy to ever win IML thus far, and likely ever. I was
Oh, no kidding.
64, and that was a lot older. Tigger was the second oldest, and he was, I think, 12 or 15 years younger than me when he won. But it's been a really significant part of my life. And the reason that I ran for IML is because I was involved with the Born Perfect organization, which was a campaign to end conversion therapy, which is mind fucking our kids to try to make them straight. And they're actually rolling back some of the progress that we've made in that front now. And so to me, it's like, I didn't do it because I wanted to be famous. I didn't do it because I wanted to have, OnlyFans. I didn't do it because I had some unmet childhood adolescent need that I wanted to be popular. I did it because it gave me a platform, and it really did give me a platform. I got more press than you can imagine because I was an IML who stood for something. So, I've been on boards of CLAW and other organizations, and I always try to be an active part of whatever I feel can use any weight or leverage that I might have. Like they're going to show a video that I made at IML on I think on Sunday night, and I'm also part of one of the people who created the code of conduct, and I'm teaching the incident response team because I'm a psychologist. And so, there's a million ways that I'm taking part in this that aren't sort of the glamorous front of house kind of things. But I just think that sort of I have a responsibility to give back and to be a participant. I think we all do. I think IML
Absolutely.
is a very important part of all of our lives. And it's really important that we do our best to make sure that it continues to evolve and sustain. So
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, and honestly, Ralph, yeah, that's probably the reason that you won because you weren't doing this for the glamour or for the fame. You're doing it for the community and for people that are less well off than we are. So, and that's important.
And
And
that's
to
ultimately what IML's always been about.
Hmm.
Less so at the beginning, it was about, selling gym memberships and getting guys for pictorial magazines and into his bathhouse. But mostly since the advent of the AIDS crisis, it's been about taking a stand and having some significance. Chuck was an important sort of community-minded political creature, and so to me, it's like I think it's really important that our history get maintained and continues to evolve with the Leather Archives Museum because there are very few places that house our stories. And so to me, it's like there's no greater, MAL does the same thing. MAL and IML are the two biggest supporters for the Leather Archives Museum. And it's a
Hmm.
really expensive undertaking, but the stuff that, some of my stuff will be there someday. And, the stuff that's housed there, whether it's papers or writings or, sashes or medals or it's like, it's really important that sort of, I know I went there. I went there when Chuck died. We had a memorial service, and I think there were 10 or 11 of us IMLs, and they gave us the Leather Archives Museum on a private tour. And it was really significant to all of us. And we were IMLs, it's like we weren't rubes, we'd been around the block a little bit, but it's really touching when you see I grew up in Manhattan. I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk so much, but I grew up in
no, you're
Manhattan in
fine.
the 70s and 80s. And there was a bar called the Mine Shaft, which was right down the street from me. And it's where I learned about how to be a man. It's where I learned about BDSM. It's where I learned about sort of play. It's where I learned about power exchange. And it had a plaque in the front of the bar. It had a dress code that when you walked in, you had to abide by that dress code. It was about no colognes and no polo shirts, no rugby shirt. Like it was very old fashioned, not appropriate. But I walked in the Leather Archives Museum and I saw that plaque. They maintained it since the early mid to 80s, and it's still there. So there's a lot of our history that needs these kind of opportunities to be sustained.
I'm going to come back to you, Ralph. Jack, what was your motivation in wanting to be a part of this?
Well, I mean, we've already touched on this, but like Ralph was saying, just bringing this to the global community that can't physically make it to IML was the biggest thing for me. And I touched on this before too, but just having folks be able to cheer on their local contestants, like here in the Northeast. I mean, we've got so many different title holders that do go to IML. We've got Connecticut Leather, we've got New England Leather, of course. We have Providence Eagle. There are so many title holders that go, and not everybody can, afford a plane ticket or, like Ralph was saying, be able to physically go and stand around in a venue for hours on end. So being able to see this just for a, low price ticket, which all the funds will go to Leather Archives Museum anyway, is really just I loved that. That was the biggest motivating factor for me, rather, was just being able to bring this about. And to my knowledge, actually, MIR has been doing this for a number of years. I want to say at least 10 years now. Even, of course, pre-pandemic, they've been doing a live stream too. So I'm glad that, we're able to catch up to that.
Ralph, the Leather Archives, I sense that a lot of our community might come to IML and not even step foot in that. What are ways that we could maybe motivate, like, during the live and everything, will you guys be promoting Leather Archives, trying to encourage people to learn about it, to go to it?
I certainly hope that's part of it. I don't really
Right.
know what we're gonna what we're gonna
Same.
do. Um, uh, I know we have like 20 minutes, half an hour before the show, and I know that we have during the halftime, we're gonna have another installment, and then we're gonna do a wrap up at the end. We'll do that for Sunday and Friday, and then Sunday, once the winner's announced, I know that I get to be the first interview, so I'll be backstage with whoever wins,
Lucky you.
yeah, I know. It's really exciting. And let's see how nervous that person is, being interviewed by another IML like 5 minutes after they won. Because it's the night that you win is an amazing adventure. It's really a spectacularly unique experience. But yeah, I think we're going to talk about I think it's a shame, like Austin Kink, we were talking about earlier. I've been to Austin Kink twice now, and when I go to Austin Kink, I don't just stay in the venue and in the hotel. Like I try to see Austin. I try to go to the stores. I try to go to the
Hmm.
restaurants. Like it's insane to be in Chicago and not go to the museum, which is right down the
Yeah.
street, which is one of the best museums in the world, and also go to the Archives Museum. It's easy to go to. You could easily put a group together to go. There's theater
Yes.
happening in Chicago. I just think there's tons of stuff to do. I don't like, listen, I'm always in the host hotel and I love hanging out with my people because to me it's a family reunion. But I also love getting out and recognizing that I'm in a city and not everyone in that city is going to IML. So going to the LA&M is a easy uh, Lyft ride, and you could probably, if you put something on Facebook or Instagram, you could get a group and you could carpool over there and it cost you nothing.
Oh yeah, I made it a point to do it actually. So I went to IML for the first time 2 years ago. So the year before that I competed, but just as a spectator because I'd never been to Chicago. I wanted to see what IML was like. I absolutely loved it. But yeah, I made it a point to go to the Leather Archives Museum because I was still kind of new to the leather culture and leather scene at the time, and I wanted to brush up on my history and learn a little bit. I wish I could have spent God, hours and hours in the little library section that they have in the that back corner. I could have just spent so much time reading all the books there. I wish I lived in Chicago so I could just go there all the time and just sit there and read one book after another, you know?
Like so I mean Jack knows this. So, I was contestant number one last year, and I felt like it was important to try to, spearhead a reunion for us this year as I'm trying to do. But I did want to add that component for us that if people want to, go back to the archives, or I might reach out to some of the IMO class 47 or something. Try to just plan something, at least take my sash son and my leather nephews to the
Yes.
archives. I would love to do that with them because I just want us to feel connected with our history too. So just to reiterate, if you don't know about the leather archives and you're coming to IML, you're missing a huge component of why this exists and why it's
Hmm.
important. And just us as leather people, we need to do what we can to make each other visible and seen and respected.
Hmm.
Um, I love this most because it feels like just a very non-discriminatory move for IML, in which, if you want to be a part of it, you can. Um, this feels, y'all, like it's a much bigger thing than maybe what it feels like, and I feel like the aftermath is going to be such a positive boom. But clearly both of you see the impact that this can make.
Yeah.
And Ralph, where would you like to see the future of IML go with this new component added to it?
That's a small little question. I don't know where it's going to go, honestly. I'm thrilled that we have new leadership. I'm thrilled that there's new energy and on the director level, and there are people coming in with ideas and different kinds of histories and backgrounds who are still very much entrenched in our community, but also are bringing expertises outside of I think sometimes what ends up happening is you produce a small contest, you produce a bigger contest, and you produce a contest like IML, or you direct it or whatever. And to me, it's like, I think Ticker coming in from a business background, having people on a director's level who know very different things. Like, I think it's a rebuilding year, but I definitely think we're going in the right direction. And, these are, I was a president of my BDSM club in Los Angeles called the Avatar Brotherhood, essentially. And I was president during 2 years of COVID, and it was really we'd been going since 1983, and I was bound and determined that that club was not going to shutter its doors while I was president. And it was hard to maintain. It's been hard to maintain everything. IMSL took a hit, IML took a hit, clubs took a hit. A lot of bars in Los Angeles closed and they're never coming back, like the Fault Line. And so to me, it's like the idea that we are evolving to make sure that people are included in something that felt like it could be winnowing down and now feels like it's more inclusive and it's more expansive. And I think that's really exciting.
Ralph, I consider you a mentor of mine. I really do. I know that we don't talk a whole lot, but you have done nothing but be available if I have a question or things like that. And you, if anybody, my journey as a title holder starts with you, as you were one of the judges for my competition. And to now be in a space where I can have conversations like this with you and with the community, it's a little bit surreal. I'm sitting here talking to IML 2017, and I am who's a peer of mine, and I have so much respect for. And I just think that you're just this very shiny beacon in our community. And I look up to you a lot, and I hope to one day be able to present myself in a way that resembles a lot of what you do. I think that what you represent is so diverse. And I think you're the perfect person to be doing this. And that's just from my perspective. There are tons of wonderful people, but it's nice to see you continue to inspire us. And I mean, keep on going till you can't go anymore, you know? So like
Well, I was thinking of you when we were talking about the Leather Archives Museum because they did they did Jim Wigler is a famous photographer of male nudes in the leather community, and they did a thing at the Leather Archives, a gallery show at the Leather Archives of Jim Wigler's work, but also people who were influenced by Jim Wigler. And one of the men who photographed me, because you and I are photographed nude a lot from incredible photographers all over the world, and it's an honor, and I'm thrilled. And but one of my photographs was then hung in the Leather Archives Museum for that show, and it goes to this place where it's like they said you can't be an intellectual, and I'm a professor and a psychologist. You can't be an intellectual and win IML. You can't take naked pictures on IML. And I talked about my naked pictures on Tumblr in my speech at IML. So it's like there's nothing you are prohibited from doing that will allow you to be an IML. What I really appreciate about you is you just keep pushing boundaries and you keep sort of expanding yourself to make who you are bigger in the world. And that makes the leather community bigger in the world. And if there's anything I hope that I've done is I sort of feel like I tried to dilate us in the larger culture a little bit. Like, had the pleasure of being interviewed and photographed by Playboy magazine and HuffPost and like tons of things that sort of it allowed, I think because of my doctoral credentials, I think it allowed us to sort of for them people to think, oh, we're not just the sleazy leather guys in the corner. We're actually significant people. We're doing significant things. And we are, it's really important, particularly in this global time, for us to stand up and be counted and resist and have our presence felt is super important. That's why I think for this year in particular, to have people who don't feel safe enough to travel, or who don't feel comfortable enough to travel, who just aren't, it's just not the year for them to be there. There's an accommodation that we can make that is really fucking great.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm super excited about that.
So, Jack, I'm going to throw this last question at you, catered to you. You're coming off of IML after 1 year. You're like, it's RuPaul's Drag Race. You just competed. Now you're coming back to All Stars without
Yeah.
rest, without time, preparation. This
Yeah.
is incredible to be just in last year's class and now offered a part of IML. I mean, that's incredible, Jack, and I'm so
I
happy for you. But
Oh my
what
God,
is
yeah.
that like? You're now a part of the IML staff.
Just God, hearing that is absolutely wild. I know, I mean, I was pestering Miguel because I wanted to be part of IML because it was such a touching experience for me, getting to meet people like you and other members of our class, other IML winners like Ralph, like Jack Thompson. I got to meet. It was such a moving, emotional, incredible experience for me. And I wanted to just give back to this experience in some way. So I was pestering Miguel, our den daddy, of course, to be, some sort of like a handler or something, like, some way more than just volunteering, which of course I would still be happy to volunteer in any way that I can. But I wanted to give back in that way. And so being able to do this is absolutely mind blowing, and I'm so humbled, and I'm so grateful, and I'm hoping I can make everybody proud, make our class proud, make Miguel proud. I'm very happy and so humbled for this.
Fantastic. We're all happy for you, Jack. So you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, man, kudos to you. Look, you have a brand, you have visibility, what I appreciate about you as you present yourself, you don't compromise that. You acknowledge and you point out a lot of times what makes you quirky. Um, and like this is great. I mean, I'm just now I'm learning more about you. And
Yeah, I
I
release little tidbits every now and then about me,
well,
little
the
lore
deal,
drops.
what I ultimately wanted to accomplish with our reunion this year was reconnectivity.
Yes.
And there are many we can get pulled apart during that year that we come off of IML and be a little disconnected. Like I saw Jamal and like Tyreek and Jordan all last weekend and Austin King weekend. And I'm like, it's been 6 months since I did a leather event since my step down. I'm like, what the fuck? And the reason was I've been working on my mental health. Ralph knows this. Ralph sent me a message. But I needed to do that to be an all-star. So I'm coming back and I'm like, all right, y'all, we're back here. Let's not break our hands. Let's not lose the hand
Yes.
holding that we're doing. So I want to come back on that. But I just want you to know, Jack, we're all proud of you. We're very excited for you. And that's a
Thank
hell of a
you.
win for you to come off of IML and then go into joining staff. All right, y'all. Well, that brings us towards the end. I want to thank Ralph again over in France, 7 hours ahead of us. I keep asking people that's ahead of time if you can predict the future, but it doesn't work. I tried that with Australia too, and they couldn't give me any details about if they can see anything before it happens. So
All right.
Jack, I'm so glad that you're here too, and that you did this. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of
Yes.
weeks. I'm probably going to see both of you in a couple of weeks. The format's changed a little bit. Now, instead of me closing out the show, I'll let my guest close the show. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to count to three, and Ralph and Jack, you're going to go. If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yep.
Here we go. One, two, three.
If you're not throwing light, you're not acting right.
And we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to count to three. Are you ready? One, two, three.
If you're not throwing
If you're
light,
not
you're not
throwing
acting
light,
right.
you're not acting right.
There we go. So please spread that message around the world.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, like, I think that's like, I mean, come on now. How can you be against light?
Honestly. Yeah.
It's like being against love. People that get mad at love, I'm like, what the? I mean, but we've got that. I was sharing these memes of like all this racist stuff that my mom sent me from the 70s. Ralph,
God.
like, I mean, like, it's crazy that some of the things that are happening now kind of mimic that. But, anyways, that's another conversation, y'all. But I want to thank these two for being throwing light. I'm LTJ Reeds, and we are out. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, sir. Bye.